Disorderly product news. Disorderly product news. Disorderly product news. DPN.
So why did you pull me over?
Speeding, ma'am.
No, I slowed down to 45.
No, I got you at 58 coming in there.
No. It was 40.
Sir, is a traffic stop with you? Step out for me. Step out. You're under arrest for disorderly conduct. I don't know why your wife's scared. Is that your wife? Okay. Everything is on body cam too, okay? She's saying she's scared to get back in the car with you after she got a ticket. I don't know if you beat your wife or what kind of... Come here, I'm not done talking to you.
Flavia.
Hey, hey.
For me to get back in the car.
Have a seat back over here.
You're
Hey.
letting this man lie like this?
What's going on, guys? It's sort of the product news here, and I'm with the man who is at the epicenter of police misconduct in the nation. Mark, the man who was pulled over. He wasn't even pulled over. His wife was pulled over. He was in the passenger seat, and I timed it within 18 seconds and one word. He got arrested for disorderly conduct. How you doing today, Mark?
I'm doing good. Survived.
So what's life been like since May 19th? What is it been a whirlwind?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, I started a new email address just so I didn't have to get it into my personal type stuff. So a few phone calls when Lackluster first cut it. He missed her saying our home phone. So a couple of phone calls, but he got that straightened out. They were all very nice phone calls. People saying, "Hey, have you started a GoFundMe page yet? Because I would donate." So it's been pretty weird because normally I'm behind the camera, not in front of one.
Yeah. And you sent me that. I want to say, because I was in the middle of doing a story about 3 channels that got arrested, and it had to go in sequence. So I'm like, okay, when this video's done, this next video is coming up. But in the comment section of one of those videos, you sent me that video. So I had that video for 4 or 5 days, and I sat on it. And then when I put it out, I realized when I watched it, the next video that popped up in the queue was Lackluster's, which is fine because me and Lackluster's are really good friends, so that doesn't bother me at all. But I am kind of kicking myself that I sat on it. Is that a small
Population 800.
And the police station, the police department's 4 or 5 members?
3.
3 members. So this one guy gets suspended, or they're saying he got suspended. Now they're down to 2. If they suspended the supervisor, they'd be down to 1.
I'm not convinced he was a supervisor.
Yeah.
He never would identify himself. He never would give me his rank, name, badge number, nothing.
Have they reached out to you?
No. On the 5th, which would have been 2 days after the incident, I called and talked to the police chief and basically gave him my grievance. He did listen to me, to his credit. And then when it was all said and done, he basically said, well, there were threats made. And I said, you're right, there were. There were 3 threats made. Your officer made all 3 of them.
Yes, yeah.
And basically, so they've known about it since the 5th because I called, told him exactly what happened. And I said, look, I can tell you right now, with the speed changes, my wife doesn't speed. I've known the girl for an awful lot, more than half my life. And she never speeds, no matter what. She could be 20 minutes late, she won't speed.
Referring to threats being made, he was referring to, do you believe he was referring to you, or was there any more conversation about you making a threat?
He told me he had read the officer's report and that I had made the threats.
Oh, well, that officer lies all the time. What was going through your head when this was all happening? Were you just stunned?
Initially, when he first walked up, I expected him to say, you got a tail light out, something like that. Because literally, my wife and I had just seconds earlier looked at the speed, and I just glanced over at it. I trust her, but I glanced over at it. And so when he said 58 in a 45, if he'd have walked up and said 49 in a 45, I might have questioned my own eyes a little bit.
Yeah.
But there's no way. I mean, I'm pretty good at math and I know numbers, so, and I'm pretty sure about what I see.
Yeah.
So I spent my whole entire life basically noticing things. I've built multi-million-dollar homes, so my whole life has been details.
Yeah.
So I think he was used to an out-of-state plate. They're driving through my town. They ain't paying attention to their speed. I can say whatever I want. He came out with the 58 pretty quick, so I think that's probably his standard griff. That's 150 bucks.
I timed it. It was 18 seconds from the first word he said to her to the time he gave you the order to get out of the car, and I think something like 30 seconds before he handcuffed you. What did you say? You just said BS, didn't you? Or was there other words there?
When he walked up to the car, my wife says, no. And I blurted out BS. And he said, sir, is the traffic stop with you? And at that point, I looked over at him and I started to say, no, I apologize. Because like I said, I was shocked that he would say something like that. And so I looked over at him and I started to say, no, I'm not. I was going to apologize and everything.
Yeah.
And by the time I could have even gotten 2 words out, he was around the car saying, get out.
Oh, yeah. You can hear the BS, and that set him off, no matter what you said after that. And then you kind of heard you saying something, but you couldn't tell what it was.
I think when he turned me around and cuffed me, I said, F you.
Oh, yeah. But you're cuffed at that point. Who cares?
Well, I didn't seem like I was much of a danger at that point.
Well, the funny part about all of this is that he wanted to remove you from the car because he didn't know if you had weapons in there.
Which that might have been a good opportunity to say, you're under arrest for disorderly conduct. Do you have any weapons? I'm going to pat you down. Is there anything that's going to poke, stab, or hurt me?
Yeah. So the irony of this is he wants to remove you from the car to have any weapons, but then he puts you in his patrol car cuffed in front and you have a weapon on you. So he's actually put you in the patrol car with the weapon.
Yeah, for about 4.5 minutes. Look, I'm a nonviolent person. I spent 58 years. I've been in one fight my entire life in 7th grade.
Yeah.
I hit him, he hit me, and now we're best friends. He's been my friend my whole life.
Yeah.
So that's how angry I am. But no, the whole thing with him putting my hands in front of me, and I don't know if it's supposed to do it, but I know they have double locks on those. He never double locked those cuffs. And when I got in, they were so tight. It actually, I don't think it's permanent, but I still have, when I run my finger over my wrist, it just tingles all the way down my hand. He dislocated my shoulder. Oh yeah, I'm in physical therapy right now.
Okay. And have you contacted a lawyer?
I got it. Well, I was accused of a felony. So 5 minutes after it happened, I hired a criminal defense lawyer, but he's talking to me. He's trying to say, oh, don't release this video. It's too expensive to go after a civil action. Just we'll get your weapon back. Well, it's been 3 months and I'm tired of waiting. So I do have a limit on my patience.
What does he say to your wife? He says something. He starts going down a list. Does he use drugs? Is he
right? And
he goes anger, and she goes, yeah, he's got anger problems. But I mean, he's angry right now. Like, who doesn't have anger problems when they're getting arrested for saying BS?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't want too much to go on her. Like the women, I mean, she's in a bad situation. You could tell she's a very, very wholesome, nice person. And now she's got these 2 authoritative figures with guns over her trying to get something out on you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, did you hear her curse?
No.
Yeah, when he did the thing with why are you trying to take your driver's license? And she goes, no, I'm just trying to hand you my insurance. And he storms off. You kind of hear her say, shoot. That's my wife cursing, guys.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I dated a girl like that, and I fell in love with her because what was going through your mind when he said, "I think you beat your wife"? Because at that moment, and I'm sure people all around the country were like, they had to stop the video because they were about to rage.
When I lift my finger up and pointed at him, a whole lot of bad things were going through my mind. And then when I start to laugh, it hit me because when he said that, he took his right leg back and got in a fighting stance. And the other guy wasn't over there quite yet, but he was ready for me to swing at him. And that's when I stepped back and said, "No, you're lying." And so I didn't ask my wife if she was afraid for me to get back in the car because I beat her and she shouldn't have said it. Yeah. It's because I wanted her on record to say no, and she did immediately. And as soon as she said no, I stepped back. You're lying.
And you did that perfect because you could see where you calmed down, and you said, "I think you got anger problems," in the midst of him yelling at you. Like you did, you could see where it clicked in your head, and you absolutely handled that perfectly. If you're arrested for obstruction or disorderly conduct for the first time, he didn't really arrest you. He let you go. There was no arrest. And then when he says felony, there was no felony. No one signs a piece of paper and gets a civil $700 infraction for a felony. You got to go see a judge.
I would think there'd have to be some kind of booking or something.
Yeah.
And, so
there would have to be a court date at least.
Well, I mean, just her court date from they were on the same court date of I think the 6th of the next month. So it would have been April 6th was the court date. And he goes, "Well, it's your right to come to court and fight it."
But you didn't have to, right?
Oh no, I could have just paid the money.
Yeah,
and then somehow figure out how to get my gun back.
That's not a felony. He's a liar. So what did it say on the ticket? The $700. Was it $760 some dollars?
$795.
Yeah. What did it say? He knew that right off the bat. He's been giving them out for a while.
Well, it's interesting. When he was trying to write the ticket, he asked 3 or 4 times, "How do I write this?" And then he said, and I quote, "We've got the disorderly conduct." Well, he never wrote that on there. All it says on there is non-traffic other.
Yeah.
That's why they kept my weapon, for non-traffic other.
Yeah, and you could see he was just incompetent from you having the gun in the car to you get your weapon back when you get your weapon back. Like he just didn't have a clue, but he knew how to write all those. He knew the prices right off the top of his head, because it's known that those little towns, especially out-of-state plates, because people from out of state, they don't vote. They don't vote for sheriffs. They don't vote for, so they get you. And it's known that those little towns, that's how they make their money. So what's going to make them more money? Bringing you to jail for a felony or charging you $795?
Right, and possibly getting to keep a weapon because I may or may not come back down.
Yeah, I'm going to write a letter to Missouri. Who are you, J. Edgar Hoover? What do you mean you're going to write a letter to Missouri? Who cares what you write to Missouri?
I'm pretty good friends with my local sheriff. He was laughing so hard when he stopped laughing. He finally looked at me. He said, "There's only 2 people that can take your CCW away, and that's me and a judge."
Do you think he's going to get fired? And what are your plans in the future?
Right now, supposedly he's suspended. My plans in the future are to continue getting this message out. I can't get a hold of the mayor. He won't answer his phone. My concern was this shouldn't have taken. They pushed back the court date twice. This shouldn't take this long for somebody to watch that and go, maybe we ought to just drop all this. And they haven't done that. So my concern I don't know that it is anymore, especially after this came out. I'm not sure how they can justify anything they've done. My biggest concern was they were taking so long so they could figure out how to trump up some sort of a weapons charge. I don't know Oklahoma law that well, but I have learned a couple of things. One, when you get pulled over, you're supposed to, if you're concealed carry, tell the cop you're concealed carry, which I was going to do, not because I knew that was a law. open carry, you don't have to say anything. They can just see it, and they probably separate you from it, especially if he was that afraid of what I was going to do. The biggest thing when I did finally calm down, and I kind of kicked myself later for not seeing what he was doing from the get-go. And it did take me a while, too long. But when I did finally calm down and accused him of beating his wife, or kept asking him, have you stopped? And then everything he said from that point on, that he was getting angrier. And if that's possible to do, his eyes were turning blood red. Everything I said to him. And that's when the guy said, oh, he's just trying to flip it around on us. And when he points at the body cam and says, it's right here on body cam. Didn't she just, and he asked the other guy, Goddard, I think he asked him 2 or 3 times, well, you heard her say it. And that's when I turned to the other guy and said, is that what she really said? And he goes, well, she said she'd hear about it and pay later.
Yeah.
Which is still not what she said, but at least it was closer.
Yeah.
So at least to his credit, he somewhat told the truth. But I don't think Carlos could remember from second to second what he had said.
And that's when you said, oh, so if I talk about it later, that means I beat my wife. What are you talking? This is going to be a discussion. I just got arrested. This doesn't happen every day. I just got dragged out of a car while my wife was pretty much speeding. Not necessarily be mad at her, but this conversation might come up.
He was just completely dumbfounded because he had no control. At no point did I ever feel like he had any control over the situation. Now, I complied with all of his physical restraint and all. I didn't fight anything, even though he kept saying, stop resisting. Dude, you twisted my shoulder completely around. If I'd have been resisting when you put me in cuffs, I'd have yanked my arm down so it went down the right way. I didn't do that.
Yeah.
So the only reason my shoulder got out of joint is because I did physically comply.
So when you say you kick yourself because you didn't see what he was doing sooner, what did you mean by that?
Because I should have seen when he ran around the car, I should have seen his whole entire goal was something with me. This had nothing to do with pulling her over. That was just an excuse to pull over to meet me for some reason. He claims I threw my hands up at him when we went past him. Or no, he said when he saw me turn around, he's already throwing his hands up, yelling all the words he said.
Yeah,
I never did any of that.
But even if you did, driving down the street and a cop pulls up behind you, it would be a normal human reaction to be like, oh, like now my body language in a moving car that hasn't even been pulled over yet is now a valid reason to arrest me for disorderly conduct. Are you out your mind?
And interject himself into, like you said earlier, 2 people that are married, and you're going to claim that you, in 2.5 seconds of that car driving by, you've already determined what's on his mind and what he's capable of, and that he beats his wife. I want to see where this guy went to college, because he must make a lot of money on the side as a psychiatrist.
Yeah, and I pointed out in the video, oh, you get your gun back when you get your gun. And then the other officer says, we're taking it as evidence. Those are the words you use. Right. We're taking your gun as evidence. And
then when I said, of what crime, the answer I got was the way you're acting.
That's what he said. Yeah. The way you're acting. I've
watched the video a few times, and I might not have should have said what I did when I turned around and said, you get cops hurt. Maybe I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
But acting is typically physical.
Yeah.
It's not verbal. So even if I stood there and cussed him out, I'm expressing myself, but that's not acting in any kind of a way other than you've pissed me off and I'm letting you know about it. I'm redressing my government.
Yeah, but acting isn't a crime. What crime? The way you're acting. No. Listen to what I'm saying. Listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth. What crime?
I've done a little bit of research since then. I've had 2.5 months sitting around doing nothing until I got this video out. And a true spousal abuser will become furious if someone else abuses the spouse that he abuses. That's his beating dummy, not somebody else's.
Yeah.
He had me in the car, and he stood where I could see him throwing his hands up, and I couldn't hear what he was saying, but I could tell he was yelling at her. I think he thought that was going to be enough. When he accused me of beating my wife, that would set me off. And when it didn't, he didn't know what to do. And then he just kept, well, I feel like he abuses. Well, you know what? Facts don't trump feelings, dude. Sorry.
Yeah.
I hate to break your bubble.
And I'm Italian. I talk with my hands, and I wasn't even talking with my hands in the video that you saw. I was getting my license out of my pocket, and they claimed I threw a gun underneath my seat, which.
Right, and they saw that from across the street.
Well, they saw. I think they saw that when they were parked behind me, based on the way the back of my head moved. Right. So you're looking at the back of my head. That's when I got the license out of me. My license was in my back left, my back right pocket. So I had to go like this.
Right.
And so my head went up and to the left. It's the camera's facing forward, so it's going to the right. They're claiming that I went down.
Right.
Down and underneath my seat. But it didn't matter what I did. They were going to say that I threw a gun. I could have not moved at all. They just used that. You know, it's called a pretextual stop, where they'll use a minor traffic infraction. They were vice squad officers, gangs, guns, drugs. This is the west side of Chicago. It has the most open air drug markets than anywhere in the nation. They're not pulling people over for seatbelts. That's just the pretext to get into my car. And I knew that. And I thought there was no way they would ever get in my car. They got in my car. So I understand exactly where you're coming from. I was in that position.
I was surprised he didn't search the car or try to. That surprised me.
I think it's a small town. His thing is to pull over people and generate revenue. I don't think he cares about what's in the car. I don't think if he thought you were running drugs and you had money in there, he would have searched that car maybe. But I think his whole thing from the start was to just generate revenue. And that shows by the fact that he arrested you for something and just let you go. And then he said you got your felony, but gave you a $799 ticket. You don't get tickets for felonies. A judge.
He said, you're going to threaten my life with a weapon. You just caught yourself a felony. And I said, for what? And he said, for threatening my life. And I said, that's when I said, I never threatened you, sir. And I said, he goes, you just said, this is his words. You just said, you hope I'm safe and I get other cops hurt. And I wish I'd have been thinking a little faster and said, exactly. That's what I said. Good job. You remember that.
Yeah.
It's the first thing he remembered, right?
Yeah. And like we said before, that's common. That's a common saying in society these days. Adair, Oklahoma, is that how you say it?
Mm-hmm.
They put out this statement. Oh, we were made aware of this on May 19th. You got 3 people on the force. 2 of them were at the scene. This happened on 3/3, January, February, March. It happened on March 3rd, right?
Mm-hmm.
You weren't made aware of it till May 19th when 66% of the police force was on the scene.
And the police chief was aware of it on the 5th of March when I called him and told him what happened. And I tried to get that recording. Apparently, they've got one phone line and they don't record, which I thought was very odd, because I wanted that recording to go towards how was he acting when he called the police chief. I was extremely cordial. I never raised my voice, but I was firm. I said, look, here's what happened. My wife never speeds, and I understand the speeding ticket. What I don't understand is the fact that your officer was so out of control the entire time and then keeps my gun unlawfully. Well, it's booked into evidence as for making threats. And I said, yeah, there were threats made, and your officer made all 3 of them. So back to my point, you need to give me my weapon back.
And what did he say?
Nothing.
So how did that conversation end, and how long did it go for?
It was probably a 8-10 minute conversation, and that's pretty much how it ended. Once I accused his officer of any wrongdoing, that was kind of the end of the whole thing.
And what date was this? Was this before the 19th of May?
That was 2 days after the incident. That was on March 5th.
Yeah, this is water under the bridge. This is, I have a saying, nobody knows, nobody thinks they're going to be on the front page of the Chicago Sun-Times when the picture's being taken. You know what I'm saying? Nobody, he never saw this happening, and now they're in damage control because the whole nation is picking it up, and it's just going to pick up steam and pick up steam and pick up steam, and people are not going for this. What this officer did was incredulous. Everything. So
Well,
what's going to happen now? What happens now?
Right now, I'm still trying to get a hold of my lawyer. I've pretty much pissed him off because I let this out because nothing was happening. So I'm going to try to call him again tomorrow and say, look, now something can get done. You need to make some phone calls. You need to get a hold of that police chief and get my weapon returned to me. I need a letter of apology, and he needs to drive my weapon up to my house and hand it to me per years.
Yeah, I think it's definitely cameras that have leveled the playing field, right? Get cameras of now you get to see everything. Without that, they used to do whatever they wanted. But I would definitely think that you would have a 1981 deprivation of rights under color of law case, right?
And my wife and I talked about this at length. If we don't do anything, look, I'm not a wealthy guy. I work 40 hours a week. I don't make a huge amount of money. But if we don't do something, what happens if next time it's a 62-year-old man who has a degenerative bone disorder like that gal, that 72-year-old lady with dementia in Colorado, I think it was?
Yeah, Colorado.
What happens if it's that person next and they can't hear very good and he orders them to do something they don't really understand and he just shoots them?
Yeah, yeah.
I couldn't live with myself. So I don't want to be in front of the camera. I feel I'm very uncomfortable, so I can fight through this.
Are you gonna set up a GoFundMe? And let me say, I normally don't tell people to set up GoFundMes and stuff because it goes, but I think you definitely should set up a GoFundMe for legal fees, right?
It's gonna take that, yeah.
So,
my wife's been really busy. She's already set some up she's a professional storyteller and she travels to Africa. So she'll set up a GoFundMe page for her Africa travels. And so she knows how to do it all. We just got to get it set up. All of the comments on your channel and Lackluster's, which that's a lot, and mine. And out of the three, yours is probably the first. The love and compassion is off the chart. Just I'd like to say a huge thank you and big love to everybody who may or may not have ever been in any kind of situation like this, but they can look past I had my license on me. I don't have a right to, he didn't have a right to ID me. I'd broken no law. I wasn't under arrest ever. I was unlawfully detained against my will and kidnapped and shoved in the back of a car. So and to be honest, when we stopped in Joplin to eat, I pulled my wallet out and put it in the glove box. I don't remember putting it back in my pocket. And I didn't know it was in my pocket till I started to get in and I put my hand on my leg and it's like, oh shit, I got a knife and my wallet's there. Well, he never finished frisking me. He never asked me, are there any more weapons? I've just never seen anything like this before. Hey, so you guys might want to subscribe to my channel because coming up in the next week or so, I'm going to have some original information, the letter I wrote to my lawyer, which was taken before I saw any video footage. I don't color myself as looking as good as I think I did in the video, so that's neither here nor there. And then the original handwritten charge that Carlos wrote, and you guys can kind of compare that to what I wrote and then watch the video, and it'll give you a nice comparison of who was actually there in the moment that day.
Oh, so we get to see Carlos's actual notes. The file that he filed.
What you're going to see is what his police chief would have gotten and read.
I'm sure that's going to be 100% truth.
Oh, it's comical.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate you coming on, buddy.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. You guys take care. Love everybody.